Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blue Soccer. Again, John, Dave, and myself are going to look back over Leinster, Ireland's victory against who they Scotland at the weekend. All the Six Nations action, and of course, look forward to the big game of the weekend next weekend, Ireland Wales. So, lads, Johnny Sexton 19, Scotland 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a good one, didn't he?
Thank God for him.
Yeah, did the job, did the business first. It was, I mean,
It was Doer and Scottish.
it was Doer. It was Doer and Scottish, and the first game of Six Nations Championship, new coach. Is the win the most important thing? Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Maybe just getting that win under the belt is the most important thing. I think people were falsely kind of I mean, obviously there's the idea of a new coach bounce, but we don't really have a new coach. And then there's the idea that, we're going to be much better than the World Cup, for example. But they forgot that Scotland were really, really disappointed with their World Cup. So that they were going to try a lot harder, or, make changes and attempt to do better than they had done in the World Cup. I mean, you don't just go out and decide how the game's going to go. The opposition do have some say in it. And Scotland were pretty good. I think we could have been better. I'm not saying it was a good performance. It was an adequate performance. And, at the end of the day, you win. You put together 5 adequate performances. You've got a Grand Slam.
Well, it was barely adequate from most of the players. CJ put in a good shift, but it was a big defensive shift, and the fact that it was him that was man of the match says a lot about. We weren't. It wasn't a winger. It wasn't Stockdale raining tries. Being man of the match. It was a tight, a loose forward, but a guy who plays it very
Plays
tight
the game
for,
very tight, yeah.
for a loose forward. I'm minded of 2018 when we just fell over the line against France in the first game with a drop goal from about 180 yards, I think it is at this stage.
That started on our line as well. Like that, 40 phases. And
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we're going to get a Grand Slam or anything, but the most important thing to do, after the first weekend, 3 teams can't get a Grand Slam.
Yeah.
So the most important thing to do the first weekend is win.
Unless Saracens are playing, in which case 4 teams can't get a Grand Slam.
Fair enough. So job done from that perspective, but it was fairly ramshackle, and it's hard to get any inspiration really from it. Now, in fairness, Doris went off very early, 4 minutes, so maybe that changed. That was the one big.
It would have maybe
difference.
narrowed the game plan.
It was the one big difference in the pack.
Being at the match, the thing I noticed most about it was, I suppose, speaking to people before the match, there was a lot of optimism, and there was a new, as you sort of saying, there was a new coach and a new groom coming in. Point taken, he's obviously just been promoted rather than coming in afresh. But there's a lot of, like, say, Mike Katz come in
To do the attack.
to try and. But the thing that I noticed, so there was, people talking to people who were saying, "Wow, there was a lot of optimism." There was, "Oh well, I think we win. Yes, by how much? By at least 12." And then all of a sudden, we weren't winning by 12, and we were kind of struggling. But in fairness to Scotland, they hung in there. But I rewatched the match yesterday, and the one thing that I did notice was that you don't really see when you're at the game, the phenomenal defence. Like, that team has some amount of character to hold Scotland out for what they did on the line. I mean, there was a remarkable amount of defensive, sort of last stands on the line. And the other thing that I noticed, and you could see it in the ground, Ireland wanted to attack. We ran the ball from our 20. We didn't do that under Joe Schmidt for a long time.
We didn't play smart though when we were running from your line isn't always the smartest play, and we did it quite a bit.
Why not?
I'm not saying you should never do it. I'm just saying.
Well, I would suggest that
It's a low.
I'd rather see
high risk.
I'd rather see when there's no Scottish guy coming up to, that the winger uses the full back and they make space, and rather than kick the ball aimlessly down the pitch 40 metres with a hope that a 50-50 ricochet comes off, that you are the one that's in control of the ball, you're the one that's attacking 2-on-1 and making 30, maybe not making 40 metres, making 30 metres. Like, Conway was very unlucky, not Conway, Larmour was very unlucky when he put his foot in touch. He also was trying to instigate runs in the first half as well. And I think, like the team has trained together 5 times. You have to start off somewhere, but
Sure.
I would suggest that there's a willingness to attack rather than conservatism straight off the bat as the first option.
I'd say you attack when it's on.
You attack when it's on.
Now,
Exactly.
just let me take that one step further. What Define's been on may have changed under Farrell, whereas what Define's been on under Schmidt may have been, we've got an 8-man overlap.
Yeah.
That's when it's on. Whereas Farrell might go, okay, there's a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1. Okay, that's when it's on. So that you don't do it when it's not on. You don't do it for the sake of it.
I agree.
And the other thing I would say is, if you have a team that's obviously as defensively good as Ireland are, we are a strong defensive team, particularly against Scotland. Kicking the ball down the pitch and letting them have it is probably it's a valid tactic, because you're going to take it off them, and you're going to take it off them 40 yards down the pitch than where they originally had it. So there's a balance point between all those things. Now, one would say that under Joe Schmidt, certainly in his final year and during the World Cup, the balance had swung too far one way. But you don't want the balance to go too far the other way either.
But we spoke, it oscillated between Joe Schmidt's a genius and to the other side of saying
He's too conservative.
he's too conservative. Like, somewhere in between is the truth.
Of course.
But like you have to give credit to this Irish team that they were going out there with an attack in their mind. They weren't saying, let's take the safe option, let's kick it into touch, let's put it up, put them under pressure, let's kick the ball back to them and force a turnover. Like, we were all very disappointed with last season for all of 2019, that from the first match against England right the way to the last match against the All Blacks, it was pretty shocking, 12 months. But you have to start somewhere. This team, as I said, trained 5 times together under Andy Farrell.
The other, and I agree with all that, but it should also be remembered that's Scotland's best ever result in the Aviva Stadium.
Yeah.
That's.
But they had a shocking year as well.
Oh, they did. They had a dreadful year.
Yeah. And their only bit of hope that they had was coming back from, but they were being humped by 35 points in the first half against England and Twickenham.
Yeah.
There's 2 halves to a match, but the first half of that they were balling, and then they just threw it. And the team was in turmoil. You can nearly kind of gel a team together having your star player walk out.
It can be an inspirational factor to the rest of the players.
Hastings Minor is quite a player. He's a little bit early for international rugby. Another couple of seasons of it, I think he could be a really, really good player for them. Finn Russell is fabulous going forward, but as we all know, he doesn't like it up him. So when the brakes are going against the guys, Finn Russell is not the man you want in the 10 jersey. When he's getting ball on the plate from his scrum half and his forwards, and he's running down the field and flicking it to Hogg and pinpoint kicks over the defence, and he's brilliant, and there's no better man. And he nearly beat England on his own that time when they came back from that game.
The thing about Finn Russell is only good when everything is perfect for him.
Yeah.
If one thing goes wrong, you may as well have Arwell Thomas there. Because that's ultimately what you get. You get a guy who can't defend, can't attack, and can't kick. Unless everything's going perfectly for him, he's a liability.
A little harsh, Dave, but yeah, I kind of go with the sentiment of it, if not the.
Well, it could have been all very different if Hogg had grounded the ball in the corner.
Man. What a let-off!
Stockdale-esque a bit, was it?
That was the difference between the two.
It was worse than Stockdale. Stockdale had real pressure on him. There were guys hanging off Stockdale. There was nobody hanging off.
No, that was appalling. That's one of those Billy Burns or Freddie Burns moments.
It's a future question, a sport question. That's what it is. It's a future. What happened next?
It seemed there was fellas dropping every few minutes in that match. There was obviously it started off very, very, very bad injury. From my particular point, I just saw him go down, Darius go down, and I thought, oh my God, is he paralysed? Because he just wasn't moving for a minute, and the play continued on around him, and he still wasn't moving. And you're like, Jesus, I hope he's okay. And thankfully, I saw on the big screen like there was a picture of him down in the tunnel, and he seemed to be.
Yeah.
It was a clash of heads, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So.
It was just unfortunate.
No, it was unfortunate, but
Yeah.
like from the initial incident, you thought, oh my God, is he? Do you know what I mean?
Is he all right?
Is it really a serious injury?
It was hard to see on the telly who was down initially. I was in a kind of a crowded room, so it wasn't there was no sound for a start, and it was difficult to see who it was that went down until the camera panned back over it. But yeah, it's not a good way to start your international career. It's,
But I saw some absolutely crazy statistic. I think he did 2 turnovers and made 4 tackles in
Wow.
4 minutes. He was
Yeah,
4
he
minutes.
Imagine he played for 80.
He had a busy,
broken the record.
he had a busy 4 minutes, all right. Yeah, it's very unfortunate for the guy on his run on debut, on his debut. But it has to be said, I thought Stander was absolutely brilliant when he took over the
But we've
position.
said it for a long time that 6 is his better position.
6 is, but I mean,
Well, he went back to 8.
He went back to
back
8,
to
but
8, yeah,
he did play a very tight 8. But I mean, I always think that the problems with Stander are much exaggerated. The problems aren't with Stander, the problems are with the positions he selected. And Stander himself is a fine player, absolutely fantastic player.
Yeah, I agree that he's better at 6
Yeah.
for sure. But to carry on with the injury list, like Ringrose is fairly crucial for me anyway. I don't think our centres have balance if
You won't
we
be
don't
passing the
have
ball now, Jason.
No,
Well, exactly. He's
didn't pass it on Saturday.
he's a big loss as far as I'm concerned. And Tyke Furlong with his calf.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he'll be all right. And also,
Was that actually an injury or just a cramp?
I don't know. Maybe it was just a cramp.
Because of the injury to Kilkane, Kildozer, because of the injury to Kilcoyne, Porter had to
lose
play.
head. Yeah.
80 minutes,
Yeah.
near enough.
So
So
Furlong had to play 80. He played
Furlong had to play 80 minutes.
78, I think he played.
So
So yeah, it could be just a simple.
it could be just a simple
Calf
cramp. Like it'd be
cramp.
very unusual for any tight head prop, but particularly like when
at that level.
at that level to play 80 minutes. It'd be very, very unusual. So I'd hold out hope there.
Didn't Porter come on probably, I don't know, 2-3 years ago? Well, similar to kind of Dara's situation insofar as someone got injured.
and
Maybe Furlong got injured
he
in
had
the
to
first,
start,
I know, 5 minutes, and he had, so therefore had to play the entire
yeah.
75 minutes.
And as I recall, he played pretty well too.
Yeah.
It's not ideal though.
Yeah, and then like so we've obviously picked up a few injuries, but it just seemed that like it was a very attritional kind of game.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what the changing room was like.
It was an attritional game. I mean, there were a lot of
It was like MASH.
There were an awful lot of collisions. Actually, funny enough, we got a question from Murdo there on Facebook about the Sexton one, which seems on the Scottish internet seems to have
Started their
descended,
cameras a bit later than
descended into flat Earth territory. There's a guy put up a clip of Sexton holding his jaw, but neglected to put the actual impact in, so it just looked like Sexton's rolling around the ground holding his jaw. He actually got a serious dint from a shoulder. I mean, completely accidental, but it was shoulder to jaw. It was a hard knock. So I'm not surprised. I mean, I wonder if these people have ever been walloped in the shoulder by an international back row or walloped in the chin. They'd roll around, but it was that kind of tough game. There was no
Very tough game.
there was no soak tackles. It was all very hard hitting.
And Scotland tight 5 often get a hard. They're not the best tight 5 in the world, but when they get up for a game, they tackle themselves to death, and they did.
But
They're good footballers. I think they're a bit lightweight, but
A little bit, but
they're good footballers.
But like
still tackling themselves to a standstill.
you can remember games in the 80s and 90s where Scotland had the
The
hoodoo
upper
over
end.
us. Like
Yeah.
I don't think we beat them in the 90s, but
No.
like no matter how good that Irish team or how poor the Irish team was or whoever Scotland were playing, they managed to bring everyone down to their level.
Yeah.
Like even I remember going over and playing matches in Scotland, and they did the same thing on those trips. Everything was just brought down, and the match was so stop-start. And especially
Because they all smoke fags.
I think it's actually just to break the whole momentum down. And any time Ireland tried to get impetus or pace onto the ball. We were like they were taking forever to walk up to the line out.
Yeah,
They were taking probably, I'd say, 15 seconds to walk to the line out.
During the 80s and 90s, the one area where Scotland could match any team in the world easily and beat most of them was in the back row.
Yeah.
And I think that they lost. I mean, despite the fact that they had great players like this, like the Hastings, Ivan Tukalo, Tony Stanger, they had a lot of good players. But I think they weren't interested in any kind of rugby that didn't involve their back row. Because that was where their real strength was.
And even more recently with their killer bees.
And the killer bees. And they had loads of them. I mean, they had Calder, Jeffries, White, Turnbull. The list went on for ages. So I think there was an element of that to their game back then. That's why it was so stop-start, because once the back row finished doing their stuff, they didn't want to do anything else.
But even on the match on the weekend, like, it was again, all the impotence was taken out of it. There was just delaying everything, walking up to the line out. They would, like, the Irish line out would be formed, waiting for them, and eventually they'd.
Yeah, absolutely. But if this were tartan talk, we'd be delighted at the way that Scotland managed the pace of the game. Because we wouldn't want to see. Yeah.
It's our fault.
Oh, yeah.
It's our fault that we didn't manage the game properly. That we didn't say we want to play it at a fast pace. We're doing it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, fair play to them.
Now, how do you think of the referee?
I thought his refereeing the scrum was very weak. With the result that the players didn't really know what he was after. Players from both sides. With Potter lays down the law, and that's what
he picks a side.
No, he doesn't pick a side, but he will generally lay down the law. And the team that looks most like it's doing what he wants a team to do is the team he'll favour, until the other team starts doing what he wants them to do, kind of thing. So, but Reynal was he was very weak on certain things. I mean, Scotland, again, that's what they had to do. They were lowering the scrum very low, and they were kind of almost on the verge of causing collapses. But that's a genuine technique, and it was up to us to battle it. I mean, so somebody once told me, you never go into any scrum that you're not going to take the engagement on your own terms. You just stand there and wait, and if the ref, you say, "Oh, the ref, he's not," we didn't. Cian Healy, I don't think, managed Reynal very well.
No,
and that's part of the game. You have to manage the referee if you're a prop.
He missed things as well.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he missed. Yeah, but every ref misses stuff. I don't mind that. But where stuff he sees, he doesn't see right.
Well, when there's continual resets of scrums, like surely that the game is in, like, we've moved now. Rugby is in the entertainment business. It's this is the Six Nations. This is where a million.
Very entertaining.
What's that?
I find scrummaging very entertaining.
Okay, but like 1 million people are tuning in to watch it. Most of those people don't watch rugby on a weekly basis, right?
Vast majority
don't. But 1 million people tune in. Like I saw last year's viewing figures, and rugby's in I think there's 7 rugby matches in the top 30 programs, for last year.
Yeah.
For last year.
Yeah, for Virgin, for their viewing figures.
And but no, I think it was all Irish viewing.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
No, well, Virgin had the rugby last year.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I'm just saying it was all rugby matches.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
There was 30 in the top. It was 7,
it was
7 in the top 30. But my point is,
rugby's big viewing.
The big viewing figures, but like not every one of those people that's viewing goes to watch Leinster or Munster or Connacht or Ulster on a weekly basis. So therefore, they're only watching a few games a season. So we're in the entertainment business, and we want to get those people to come to the stadiums that the provincial teams play in, or even to go and watch a club side. But the point being that if you're going to have continual resets of scrum after scrum, it's not entertaining for the viewing public. A scrum nerd like yourself, Dave, might enjoy it, but a lot of people don't, and they say, "Well, geez, come on, get on with it. Why are we taking 4 minutes for a scrum?"
In fairness, I do like it when the scrum actually starts, not when they're setting it up. So,
but like,
and that's where Reynal couldn't get the scrum together.
But a referee, he should say, "Right, I'm just going to bin someone," and and then there won't be any if you bin one, or rather than just continue to let them away with it.
Yeah, I always think that referees, like you say, when they're in a situation like that, and they should bin someone, but I don't think they should bin a prop. I think they should bin a winger. Because the solution to getting a scrum strong and stable isn't to get rid of the best props.
No, fair enough.
But, some kind of punitive measure is required. So
A
maybe
black card, Dave.
a yes, black card plus TM penny. Although bloody GAA have adopted the idea now wholeheartedly, so I don't know.
Shaking them.
But but you know, there is that idea that it is counterproductive to try and get a scrum better. You weaken the scrum. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, I did think he was weak around scrum time. I thought the rest of the game, he was equally. He wasn't bad. He was equally magnolia for both teams.
Well, you effectively do either take off a back row or when the next scrum happens.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You have to take
But you have to
off-
bring on the weaker prop, the nominally weaker prop.
Yeah. Now, sure, there's no weak props at international level, Dave.
I've seen Peter Wright play. That's one for our Scottish viewer.
Well, moving on to some of the other results, Wales obviously hammered Italy 42-0. Just continues on the shocking run of results for Italy, and no doubt there's going to be more calls for them to be culled from the Six Nations.
Yeah, whether that's a good idea. Bit of relegation, sprinkle a bit of relegation in there, keep everybody honest. The problem is they've nobody to replace them with.
Japan.
And before you say Georgia,
I was going to say Japan.
Japan are in another continent.
Quite true.
They're not in the European. I know they have Australia in the Eurovision these days, but like, we don't want rugby going down that road now, do we? Georgia just don't have the population or the anything that's needed for. They're too far away.
They don't have the team at this point in time. That's the reality.
They don't have a team either.
But did Italy
Even
beat
if their
them?
team was better,
Italy beat them handy enough. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
they don't have the population
And
to do it.
It's just a shame that they can't. I don't know what I heard. I was listening to some podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they had him with Mike Tyndall's one, and he was talking like about my cat. He's quite friendly with Cat, and then he was talking about his Irish role, but then he said he found it very frustrating over in Italy, and there's politics just going on all over the place, and
Of course,
they can't get it sorted out, and but like you're kind of taking one step forward and two steps back. You're getting all these good coaches, or like say they had O'Shea and they had Mike Cat.
And Nick Bradley, who's just signed a contract extension
That's
this
right,
week.
yeah.
He's doing quite well in fairness.
Yeah, but
to
like
him.
the thing is that if you look at Treviso's results, or certain, they were pretty competitive in our pool in the European Cup. Like they were very unlucky that they got absolutely ridden by the
referee
against Northampton.
Yeah.
And if they'd have won that game, they might have.
Might have been a stepping stone.
Yeah, but.
Well, the problem with Italy is, while they have improved in the last few years, probably under Conor O'Shea, everyone else has improved more, and it's very hard. Like rugby is a game, like everybody wants to spread the gospel of rugby. All the people in the rugby world who are making a living out of it want to make it bigger. So as you have a bigger World Cup, you've got more competitive teams. But the fact is, especially the 15-man game, it's
a hard game. It's a hard game.
Well, it's not just hard. It's
a hard game.
It's expensive.
But it's a hard game to play at that level.
But you are in rugby, unlike other sports, you're actually rewarded for being good. So you can score 42 points.
Yeah.
If you've got a shit soccer team against a pretty good one, the shit team can occasionally scrape a goal at from a lucky corner or something.
But that's the thing.
Also, you get hospitalised if you've a bad, if you're playing the All Blacks.
You have a situation where, the reality is that in Europe at least, if you were to put together a Rugby Europe Lions team, they'd be lucky to keep Italy under 70. And that's the reality of it. Not including the Six Nations, what I mean, the
I know what you mean. So if you got Germany,
Belgium, Spain, whatever.
Yeah.
The standard. But these are part-time players, you see. That's the thing. These are part-time players as opposed to professionals. And as you say, Italy has its own problems. The problems in Italy isn't that Italy under 20s beat Wales in Wales on Friday night.
Yeah.
And the Italian.
And
it would be a shame that they get kicked out of the tour. As there's a lot of, especially.
Well, this is 3 years on the bounce where that Italian under 20 team has had some serious promise. So the problem isn't the guys who are 19 3/4. The problem is what happens when those guys go into the senior environment, and what is happening in the Italian Union in the way it manages its senior environments. The Italian Union seems to be quite happy to take the Six Nations cash. They get full houses all the time for Everybody loves going to Rome for the matches. They get a big wad of cash for that, but they don't seem to spend it on the game. And that's the problem. You look at the budgets of Parma and Treviso. Treviso are basically funded by, obviously, by Benetton. They are nominally the works team. But, you know, Italian rugby, the Italian union, which is a very wealthy union, blue chip sponsors, wealthy supporters, doesn't seem to be spending that money on the game.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Like, it's
No, we're not going to come up with it here.
No. Because at the end of the day, losing a Six Nations game every year would be disastrous. I mean, budgets are such nowadays, and rugby, as you say, it's 15th is an expensive game to play. If we were to lose the revenue, TV revenue, advertising revenue, the ticket revenue from one game a season in the Six Nations, that would be a significant problem.
Well, we do. Every second year we only get 2 home games.
That's budgeted for. But if that comes out and we only get one away game, you know what I mean? That would be a significant problem.
But there's an even number of matches, so
Yeah.
you can split them 2 on a Saturday, 1 on a
Yeah.
Sunday or a Friday. Then you have obviously the 3. Whereas, do you remember back when it was a 5 Nations, there was always one
Somebody had to
fallow
sit
team
out,
every
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
every weekend.
Yeah, so let's not go to 7 Nations.
That in a way is a problem, because what they could do with the 5 Nations back then, what they did was the spare team played Italy as a kind of a friendly, but
And we lost 3 years.
yeah,
in a row.
but so did everyone except
Yeah,
England
sure,
lost
yeah.
as a rehearsal, because that was a very good Italian team, and that's what got them into the Six Nations. Unfortunately, when they got into the Six Nations, those guys hung around for a year and then all retired.
Yeah.
The problem for we'd say Georgia. We take Georgia as an example. Georgia are the best of the rest. There's no free weekend for a team to play them on that off weekend to get them into the up to standard, and we can't add extra weekends because the playing schedule is already so busy.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, back at the last game of the weekend, bit of an upset. France beating England,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
though it was in Paris. England.
Well, we didn't really discuss. I mean, we discussed Italy, but we didn't really discuss Wales before we go on to.
No, I think we'll catch them when we're
Yeah, okay.
talking about our game next week. But yeah, the English team had an awful hangover from the World Cup / Saracens / God knows what was going on in their heads. But
They might have had actual hangovers.
look at Owen Farrell. Have you ever seen him drop 2 balls
No.
in his career? Never mind in a match. They just look all at sea, and forward as well was dropping balls. Obviously they had Nova Napolas and Manitou Laggy got
That's the
lashed
main
out
reason.
of it.
But sure, look, do you remember 3 years ago when we beat them in Dublin?
Mm-hmm.
You take those lads out, you take them out of the Saracens team, as you saw when Leinster played them.
Yeah.
Like, they hardly laid a glove on Leinster when we played them in the quarterfinal 2 seasons ago without Filipolo and
Ed Fields.
I believe Mako is all right. They just rested him. Did I hear that correctly?
if you believe that now.
Well,
I mean, everybody's talking about how brilliant, great France were, and it was very exciting stuff. I mean, they were 24-0 up after 55 minutes.
like the France of old,
Yeah, and like the France of old, they
capitulated in the second half.
virtually capitulated. If the game was 10 minutes longer, they would have lost.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Because England stopped dropping balls
But it's funny.
and realised that Johnny May absolutely had your man on toast.
Yeah, he did too.
So,
But it's funny that they were leading against Wales last season as well,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
and they kind of let it slide now, whatever reason that is. But it was interesting. I watched that match on Virgin Media, and all of the guys in the studio, and Ronan O'Gara and Matt Williams both live in France, and both of them said,
England
this
to win.
game is still in the back, even though it was like 17-0 or whatever
Yeah.
at half time. Well, I can't remember the exact
So
score.
17 at half time.
And the 2 lads that live in France were going, this game isn't over by a long shot. Whereas pretty much any other match, international standard, that you'd say, well, the home side's winning 17-0.
Good night.
Good night, really, isn't it?
I mean, the one thing France did have that they haven't had in the past is when England were coming at them, they had Sean Edwards' defensive system to
Yeah, that was a huge.
Oh, but you
that
could
was a
see it.
huge
yeah,
thing.
see how
it was
good,
a huge
like-
defensive stint.
Yeah.
And credit to them for sticking to the system. But
It just goes to show.
I mean, we talk about it every week, every year, and we think it's and it is a kind of it's almost like mouthing a stereotype. But the mentality of that French rugby team is dubious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can be brilliant, like to go 24-0 up against England, or in Racing going whatever they were up against Saracens. And France have done it over the last couple of years, and then the complete collapses. Complete collapse.
You saw in the World Cup as well, like they were leading Wales, which what was it, 15 or 20 minutes to go.
And Argentina, remember the France-Argentina game as well was similar. They scraped home in that.
Yeah. The key, the key to playing France is kind of just keep in touch, and something will happen that'll break their concentration. Something, whether it'll be a bad call or a penalty miss, or something will happen.
Well, it just
and that'll give you an in.
If you want your
you have to take it, but it will give you that in.
If you want your international team to defend well, you just got to make sure that your defence coach divorces Heather Small. Everything will flow from that. No, he's a great coach. Like, he's had Wales, run like clockwork in defence for a long time, and Wasps
before that. Yeah.
That was the first team he coached after rugby league, wasn't it? In fact, he was fairly young. He was playing rugby league nearly before he started coaching Wasps. But yeah, he's a cracking coach, and you're talking about 5 training sessions. Wait till he's there a year or two.
Yeah,
it's frightening, really. But there's all the
talk. I question how long he'd be able to put up with it if things don't. if what happened to other foreign coaches in France happens to him, you wonder would he have the patience to put up with it?
Maybe so.
Not sure.
But you see, Galthier's come in, and they have the World Cup in 4 years' time, 3 years' time now.
Yeah.
They have a huge emphasis. They want to do well at it. They want to they're bringing in a load of youth into their squad as well.
Yeah.
Really sort of blooding them, still keeping some of their stars, like the older generation of players there, but certainly bringing 2 out halves, or a 20-year-old and a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of success at under 20 level, both in Six Nations and in the Junior Rugby World Championship, and they're bringing the best of those players through.
That's Grumhav as well. I know he's been around a few years. He looks like he's still
very
young.
He played. Didn't he play against us for Castra back a couple of years ago?
He's
when he was 18 or whatever.
He's made a few mistakes now in the game, but he's just a cracking player.
Yeah,
he really is. I really like the look of him now that day.
Oh, he was so good. And
so he's a fantastic player. I mean, it's actually one area where I think France have a lot of good players, actually, because they've Machinot sitting on the bench. Machinot's a great player. I love watching Machinot play.
Yeah.
So they're very fortunate that way.
But I think they had so many stars coming into their club sides, and the national team was really taking a pasting. They've managed to steady the ship a little bit now, and make sure that it's still the flagship of their, rather than the whole emphasis going on just clubs, that the two things, before, O'Gara was saying that some of the players that he's coaching, they're looking forward to going to French camp, whereas before he couldn't believe it that they were nearly going, geez, I have to go into French camp for a week.
Well, the one thing that game didn't do us a favour with, or any of the other teams in the Six Nations, is that it made England, probably going to be have a serious chip on their shoulder when they play us. Hopefully they get it out of their system when they play Scotland.
Isn't Jones such a dick though? I mean, coming out with that quote,
he loves it though. I mean, that's his game. Gatland's a bit like that too, just coming out with these quotes for whatever.
Gatland backs it up with Grand Slams.
Well, he can get to a World Cup final.
He's won, yeah.
But that's the downside for me, is England are going to be really, really aggro now. So hopefully either Scotland do a serious job on them, or they do a serious job in Scotland and get all overconfident again.
Because it's not a friendly place for England to go at the moment, Scotland. They're not overly enamoured of them, both socially and rugby. So it'll be an interesting visit for them. The thing about Eddie Jones, I mean, like we were saying about Gatland is just as annoying as Eddie Jones, but Gatland's got 5 Grand Slams, 4, 2 European Cups, 2 Lions tours.
I think he's only 3 Grand Slams, but
just 3.
More championship. Yeah. That's as much as Ireland has in their history.
Gatland has fuck you medals.
Yeah.
You know,
in his arse pocket.
In his arse pocket, so he could do that. The thing about you go up and you think there's no way England should have a chance against, or sorry, Scotland should have a chance against England. England should roll over them.
Is it in Murrayfield?
It's in Murrayfield. It doesn't always work that way.
You never know.
England seem to find it tricky when they have to. Can find it tricky.
But like this is, whoever loses this game, it has a disaster of a season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it is officially so, Scotland are already because they can't win a Grand Slam or a Triple Crown.
No, but
England can't win a Grand Slam.
No, but like if you lose 2 matches straight off the bat, you know
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble, and like this is kind of make or break, even for say
Scotland.
For Scotland and the coach, I can't think of his name.
Gregor
Townsend. Sorry, it's like Townsend. Like he could be getting the job.
Who knows?
Do you know what I mean? Like he had a pretty shit World Cup, and then if he's loses 2, and you know he's still got to go to France, got to go to Wales.
Ireland away and England at home is not a good start for a fledgling. Well, he's not fledgling anymore, but a Scottish coach that's under pressure.
Your star player walking out.
The thing that might, the thing that might help him though is there anyone to replace him?
Well, something that might tee up our game is the fact that after next Saturday at 4 o'clock, there'll only be 2 teams that can get a Grand Slam. Maybe only one if it's a draw. So it tees it up very nicely. 2 new coaches. Theirs is newer than ours because ours has been in the system. Theirs has been in the Welsh system,
but
not
coach versus
not
a
the
refurbished
Wales.
coach.
Yeah, yeah, he's refurbished. He's got a fresh hard drive in.
Yeah. Grade A factory refurbished.
He's got an SSD drive in there to replace his ordinary hard drive. But he's Pivac. We don't know where he stands because they hammered Italy 42-0, or 42 was it? No, it was nil.
Yeah, 42-0.
So that doesn't really tell us where they are because the Welsh love throwing in the tries, and once they get around you. They've also got serious pace out wide. That could come back to haunt us because we're still a bit vulnerable out wide.
You could see Welsh. I'm not saying arrogance, but Welsh confidence, swagger in their backs.
Yeah,
they looked like they were motoring.
Yeah.
I know they were playing Italy, but how often have we played Italy and not, might have got 4 tries, but not the most convincing in performances. They looked everything was coming out and everything was working off their play.
But confidence has never been a problem for a Welsh international.
No, absolutely.
I mean, even when they were quite poor at the end of the 90s, beginning of the 90s, end of the 80s, as far as they were concerned, they were on a par with the All Blacks.
Yeah.
That's how they saw themselves. But this is a Welsh team that, if it gets momentum, is very, very hard to stop. Now the question is,
can we stop it before they get momentum?
Well, yes, because under Gatland, a lot of their momentum was generated by sheer physicality. Now they had other things as well, but Gatland liked big players running hard.
He did.
Pivac at Scarlets played the game a different way.
Yeah.
He liked clever backs running around.
Yeah.
So, will he be able to find the blend? Will he ditch Gatland ball, as it's unfortunately called, entirely? Or will he find a blend? I mean, moving George North to the centre doesn't suggest that he's willing to ditch the physicality entirely. But, he's got incredible pace on the wings, incredible pace on the bench. He's got one of the best out halves of world rugby, and more scrum halves than you could shake a stick at.
His little pass through the legs was class.
Yeah, it was class. Absolutely. But Biggar's a class act. He really is. Biggar. I mean, it's great. Actually, when you think about it, isn't it great to see Sexton, Owen Farrell, and Biggar in their pomp at the same time?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Like, and even a wild card like Finn Russell thrown into the mix. I mean, we're very fortunate. But the question is what Pivac's going to do. I mean, we initially found it very, very difficult to play Scarlets when Pivac took over, but then we kind of found it quite easy. Now, obviously, Wales are a lot better than Scarlets. You'd hope that Ireland would be a lot better than Leinster.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Looking at the 2 games, ours was uninspiring and theirs was more inspiring. Yes, they were playing Italy. We were playing a fairly determine Scotland. But
Yeah, there's an equation to be
The-
balanced
the
there. I'm not
only-
sure what the solution is.
the one thing that'll balance it a little bit is the fact that we're at home again, which we went to Cardiff and got spanked last year, and I was there, and it was a humiliation. So this week, that's a bit of a chance of redemption for us. But having said that, Wales, okay, they've changed their coach, but they're Grand Slam champions. Okay, it wasn't a legendary Grand Slam where they trounced everyone.
They scored the same number of tries as Italy
They got there you
in
go.
last
They
season's
got
Grand
by.
Slam.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
They
they conceded.
did well.
none.
They did well in the World
But they
Cup.
milled us, didn't they?
Oh, they milled it. They scored
Destroyed
most of their
us.
tries against us.
Destroyed us. They did pretty well in the World Cup. They
Yeah,
got to a semi-final, didn't they? Which we've never done, and they did at our expense in 2011. They are going pretty well, and like you say, they've always got a bit of swagger about them. And once they get the tails up, they really know how to swagger. So I don't think we're going to have to hit them early, hit them often.
and they've a lot of guys fit.
Yeah,
Most
which we don't.
They don't have the injury worries that we
Jonathan
have.
Davies out.
Jonathan Davies is out, but they've got plenty. I mean, obviously that's the big problem. That's why they've moved north into the
Yeah.
centre. But they've got guys like, I mean, they've got Faletau back.
Yeah.
They've got so many of them. I mean, except for Davies, virtually everyone's fit, I think.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, that doesn't bode well for us. So, like, I'd be fairly pessimistic now going into next week. I have to say, I wouldn't be. I'd say they're favourites.
Okay, well, say
Not saying we're going to lose, definitely, but I'd be.
we'll concentrate on Ireland now for a bit. Do you think Murray did enough to hold off Cooney?
Well, I think that depends on your view on Cooney. Like, Cooney is fabulous for Ulster, and sometimes behind a not very good pack, he's fabulous. At international level, however, I just don't know about his decision making. I'm not quite there with Murray or with Cooney. Like, I know everybody's screaming for him, and talk to any Ulster fan, they'll tell you like Conor Murray should be not even on that bench. Get Cooney out there.
it should be most Ulster fans think that at this stage Conor Murray should be going to Dignitas.
Well,
He's so far over the hill.
yeah. Well, I'm not. I don't think Murray's in great form still. He's improving a little bit, but I'm not sure I would
But like
go balls out with
from,
Cooney
from a psychological
to
point,
start.
from a psychological point of view, he almost had to go for Murray. Like, his confidence is low. He's not playing great. So if he dropped him,
It might be a
it
spiral.
might be too much. Do you know what I mean? It might, whereas he gave him a chance of redemption,
Also, you've got
and he
to.
said, "Go out there and prove everyone wrong and have a great game." And he played okay. I don't think he played brilliant. I don't think he played crap either. I think he played okay. Cooney came on at the last 20 minutes and did a couple of nice things,
He did
couple
very
of
well,
not great things. Put a lovely trip through. I think he did make two nice little kicks through,
Mhm.
and fortuitous with the bounce, but they rolled into touch with 10 meters or whatever from the
Yeah.
line.
No, I'm not saying like. I think Cooney is really good. I don't think he's rubbish or anything. I'm just not quite convinced at international level that he's the man to hang your hat on. And he's also got Luke McGrath sniping at his.
Well, that's the thing. I can't understand how there's no talk about Luke McGrath whatsoever. I mean, nowhere on the internet, in the papers, nobody's talking about Luke McGrath. Luke McGrath
He's
is
ahead of
the,
Cooney in terms of going to the World Cup.
Luke,
If you look
yeah,
at it
Luke
that way.
McGrath's the incumbent for the best Irish team in existence at the moment, which is the Leinster team. They're one of the best teams in Europe. He's been the incumbent now for 2-3 years, during which time they've got to a European final and won one. 2 European finals and won one. He plays with the international out half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He plays with the likely number 8,
yeah.
injuries aside. And yet there's no talk of the guy.
But the other side of the coin is Cooney.
It's a lovely Cinderella story.
Okay, but Cooney plays on a fairly average team.
Mm-hmm.
He's himself and Corsia
Could see it.
have dragged that team from being also-rans through to being, I don't think they're contenders, but they've managed to, for the last couple of seasons, get out of their pools
Mm-hmm.
in Europe. And, they were a bounce of a ball or a knock-on over the line away from beating us last season. They had a tough draw, obviously, going down to Toulouse this season. But those two players have been the driving force behind making Ulster a pretty competitive outfit.
Sure.
Luke McGrath has, for 85% of the matches he plays for Leinster, has an armchair ride. He's behind. There's probably, I don't know. Off the top of my head, let's say 3/4 of the Irish team playing with them, and when they play, Grant, if they play even Glasgow, full strength Glasgow team, you're talking half of the Scottish team. Whereas 3/4 of the Irish team playing half the Scottish team, or a quarter of the Welsh team if they play Scarlets or Ospreys.
Well, would that not be an advantage for McGrath?
Sure, maybe
because
so.
he knows the players, he knows how they play.
I take that on board, but I'm just saying that some of the performances for Leinster are so far ahead of most of their opposition in their opposition matches that you could have anyone in there and they would make a pretty good fist of it. A competent.
Your scrum half has the most touches in the game. You can have a shit.
I'm not talking about a shit. I'm talking about a competent scrum half, not necessarily the world's best. Just somebody that is a very good professional rugby player would be made to look pretty good by the quality of ball that the pack would give him, and having all those stellar stars outside him.
I would say, just to go back to one of the things you said about Ulster, I don't think Ulster are a bad team led by two brilliant players. I think they're a pretty good team, but not much more, with a lot of pretty good players, but not much more. And Coetzee and Cooney are pretty good players. Because when the chips are down, they got Coetzee and Cooney found it they're going very difficult over in Claremont, for example. I think Rog mentioned it in the pre-match. He mentioned how disappointing Cooney was against Claremont.
Yeah, he was actually. Yeah.
He said there's a big difference. And there's always players like that who are really popular with the fans, but coaches aren't all that interested in. And Cooney has
Joe
traditionally.
Schmidt was never interested.
Michael Cheika didn't have a lot of interest in him. Joe Schmidt didn't have a lot of interest. Matt O'Connor, we can leave to one side. Pat Lam didn't have a whole lot of interest in him. There's guys like Cooney. Whatever way Cooney plays.
Was Cooney not in school when Cheika was here?
No, he came into his first year overlap with Cheika's last, as far as I can recall.
Okay.
But it still doesn't matter. For whatever reason, now his style suits Dan McFarland's perfect, and it works really, really well. And he's been very, very good with Ulster. But it is a huge step up. It's a bigger step up than it is from playing Edinburgh versus Ulster in Pro 12 to Ulster playing Claremont in European rugby, and it's as big a step up again playing against a top test team.
But you're playing one of the top 4 teams, like that. You know what I mean?
Just as it happens, I don't think Murray's playing all that much better than them, to be honest with you. In fact, I don't think he's playing any better than them at all. But the key thing is, I don't think he's playing worse than them, and he has credit in the bank.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a big difference at this level.
For sure.
I mean, I was surprised to find, actually, I didn't realise it. They're the same age.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
I'd say Cooney's about a year younger, is he?
No, same age.
Is he?
Yeah.
Thought Murray was 30. However,
I'm not hoping to correction on that, but as far as I'm aware.
John Cooney also has advantages for Ulster that are not necessarily advantages for Ireland.
Yeah.
He can kick really well. He's their main kicker. He's a better kicker than Billy Burns, obviously, or he wouldn't be kicking. That's not a big advantage when you're playing for Ireland because, Murray can kick, Sexton can kick, there's a few others can kick. It's not a headline thing the way it is for Ulster. Also, he can play 10 in a pinch for Ulster, has done. That's not really an advantage when he's playing for Ireland because we're never going to go with him as the backup 10 unless, you know what I mean? There's always going to be a Ross Byrne or somebody is going to be there, Joey Carberry if he's fit.
Addison.
Whoever, I don't know. Can he play 10?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he was a 15, 13.
No, he's played 10 as well in the Premiership.
God bless him. He does everything. Does he make the tea as well?
He doesn't stay fit is the one thing.
That's the problem, yeah. So, all of these things are mitigating against Cooney. Like, I love watching him play. He's a fabulous player. And, if he got him on the right day with the right team, like, I've no doubt that he's probably going to start against Italy, for example. And if he lights the place up and everything goes really well, who knows? And if we haven't lost to Wales, then we will be the only team that can get a Grand Slam by beating France in the last round. It's all written in the start. No, I can't see it happening.
Do you remember a band called Menswear?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of hype about them. Had covers of Enemy, Sounds, Record Mirror, all Q. I had covered before they even released a record. They were the saviors of British music. They were going to be the next big stars of Britpop, and then they released their album, which was rubbish. Sometimes you have to take a step back from the hype.
Yeah.
No, I think John Cooney's a lot better than Menswear. I put him there, maybe Blue Tones.
But Dave, you have to reward form.
Yeah.
And
so McGrath then.
But we discussed that, and we were saying that what performances has he been outstanding? He hasn't commanded a starting. You couldn't say he's our number one scrum half.
Mm-hmm. McGrath?
No.
Oh, I certainly would.
No, you wouldn't.
I would.
Would you not think that any time Gibson Park comes
maybe 18 months ago I'd agree with you, but I think that McGrath has pretty much sealed that spot up now.
The problem with comparing Cooney, McGrath, Gibson Park, Murray is that they are all such different types of scrum halves. Yeah. That the strength of one is a weak. Like Murray's box kicking is one of his biggest strengths. It's one of the biggest weaknesses for Cooney. Luke McGrath's pass is probably one of his weaker things, but he's a terrier around a breakdown. He's great at directing his forward. He's got loads of. He's an amazing tackler. He can, for a guy of his size, Whereas they're not necessarily Cooney's strengths. And Gibson Park's strength. Gibson Park is a lovely fast passer, gets to the breakdown very quickly. Like you can compare all of them on certain things and go, oh, well, he's way better than him. Yeah, he is, but what about this? Yeah, there's nobody who covers all of the bases on these things.
The funny thing is, like, we can have this chat we like, but next year it's going to be your man Casey's going to be starting for Ireland anyway. So,
but like, just going back to the, like Cooney was nominated as one of the players of the European competition so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like Luke McGrath didn't make that shortlist.
That's true.
No, that's true.
I think so. Now, I still think that they're going to go for the fella who's been on 2 Lions tours, has, I don't know what he has, 70 caps, and as you said, Dave, he's got money in the bank already, and he's, there's a lot. Like, I think he's one of, if not the highest paid Irish player.
Possibly.
That means somebody signs off on that. Somebody has to say, we have to justify that salary. Otherwise, what's the point of paying this large amount of cash when he's back playing Pro 14 with Leinster?
There's one other thing, though. There's one very last thing, right, about this situation is that you can't change too many players in it. You want a new broom with Farrell, but you can't say, oh yeah, let's have 3 changes in the pack and another 4 in the back line. You just can't do that in international rugby. You can't throw out a new team every week like you can.
So who's going to start?
So if you're going to change Cooney, like you mightn't have changed Doris or you mightn't have changed whoever.
Yeah.
So Murray in there with his experience with Sexton, his experience with Stander, for example. That's a factor as well.
So who's going to come into the centre now? We know that Ringrose is out for minimum 2 weeks, isn't it? Henshaw Bundy, do you think that works?
Well,
I think it's what they're going to select.
Yeah, true.
Whether it works or not is another matter.
It worked for Connacht. And I think it's the thing that will be selected. I'd go a completely different way. I don't think you're not going to wash your way through Wales. I mean, you're just not going to. It's not going to happen. You can go around them though with quick feet. So I'd go with either Larmour or Addison at 13.
That's a huge risk, though.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
But is it?
It is in defence.
That's the thing. It's a risk-reward situation. I mean, you can play, like we've just been talking about, playing the percentages and all that. You can play the percentage game, go with the 2 big lads, and have 4 fellas locking horns and beating skulls for 80 minutes. But you're not going to win a rugby match that way. I think the way around. I mean, George North is a brilliant rugby player, but he has the turning circle of a small country. So if you can get guys who can get outside him or inside him with clever feet, that might be the way to go. The problem is the way Ireland defend in its Farrell system, and has been for the last couple of years, is the guy playing outside centre is pretty much the defensive leader. He decides the speed of the line, he decides the pace of the line, he decides to shoot if he's going to shoot or not. And these guys are not experienced at playing that system.
I think that'd be unfair on Larmour.
So he may well go. Apart from the fact that they are actually really, really good rugby players, he may well go with Aki and Henshaw because they play together a lot and they know the system really well. I mean, we tend to forget that for the first half of the Six Nations when we won the Grand Slam 2 years ago, it was Aki and Henshaw.
Yeah, no, like they're not ideal. Generally you want your centres to be a rapier and a bludgeon, and that's 2 bludgeons.
I'd prefer a rapier and another rapier who can also act as a bludgeon.
Yeah, well, it's not that they've like Henshaw has pretty decent hands. Aki is a great offloader. Maybe not an amazing passer of the ball, a bit like Ben Teo. He can offload out of a tackle like nobody, but he distribution in terms of passing rather than offloading.
It's standard, not much more.
Yeah, it's not rubbish, but he's not going to cut teams open with his hands, unless it's his bare hands, and he's punching them. But
so don't steal his mate's laptop.
Yeah. So I think that's what's going to be selected. I don't think there's any Farrell, unless he just likes seeing his own name on the team sheet, is not going to select the other Farrell.
I don't think he's going to go with Chris Farrell or Stuart McCluskey. I just don't see it happening.
Well, Chris Farrell didn't do himself any favours against Racing Metro. Thought he was very poor that day.
And if you think, Stuart McCluskey has never impressed Joe Schmidt. Like he's a great player. I'm not knocking him again, but would he be able to make the step up to international rugby?
A lot of the stuff I'd say about Cooney, I'd say about McCluskey as well, is he makes bad choices.
I wonder if Addison will come in. Like they mentioned that he was basically fitish. Yeah, they
got to get at least 10 minutes out of him then.
I'd say they probably could. He'd be the option. Like I say, him and Larmer, the other at fullback. If they were going to go a different way entirely, I don't think they're going to do it. I do it because I'm not been paid to get these results, and I'm not a rugby intelligent guy.
You might lose your job.
I won't lose my job. But the other option would be Addison / Larmer, with the other at fullback. But I think he will go Aki Henshaw, and I could see why. I mean that was the best centre combination in the Pro 14 the year that they won it. They shredded us like.
Yeah.
I suppose the other positions. Well, so I suppose one guy I wanted to mention was Kelleher coming on.
Yeah,
it was good to see him back. Like he obviously broke his hand against Northampton, so it was good to see him come back and making his Test debut. The other position that's open for grabs obviously is Doris's. I presume they're going to move.
Going to play
Manny in again.
I think they're going to play what finished the
game
last week. You wouldn't know that.
Will Connors has been
they bumped Will Connors up to.
But the rumour is that it's because Josh van der Vlier is not 100%.
Right. Okay.
Rather than.
But they bumped Will Connors up to the full squad for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And if they were going to go with Doris the last match, they might go with Deegan this.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
On the grounds that 6 of one, half dozen the other. Because if he wants to play that wider game, he's not going to be able to play a wider game with
CJ at 8.
With CJ at 8 and O'Mahony on the pitch. He's just not going to be able to do it. No, but he's not, because that's not his game. If he has CJ doing the tight stuff and then arranging number 8, he can play that way.
I just want to see them taking opportunities and really going for it rather than just the same old.
The only way you're going to beat Wales is to go for it.
You do, absolutely.
You're not going to win an arm wrestle with them. Anytime we've beaten Wales because we've tried to take, it's because we've taken them on and not tried to go through them. I mean, you're not going to go through Wales. Unless
their new defence coach is
unless it's all fallen apart since Gatty and Edwards left.
Who knows? You're
not going to go through them. And Pivac doesn't look like the kind of guy who lets things fall apart. So it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't see any other changes on the pitch on the team apart from the subsequent knock-on changes on the bench that might be. If say for example somebody comes in.
Well, Kilcoyne's obviously going to probably be out as well.
Yeah, so Jack Morale come in.
Yeah.
And fair play to him. I mean, he had a tough year 12 months ago, but he seems to have played himself back into it. I mean, he was
a good reliable option too.
His first couple of months in Ulster was very, very hard. It did not go well for him. But he played himself back in. I mean, he is a class player. We know he's a class player. It was always a matter of him getting that. It seems to happen to props in their late mid-20s. I mean, Keane Healy's form fell off a cliff as well. If you remember.
Do you think now? Do you think he?
Yeah, but it happens. The wear and tear on your body.
Do you think he's under pressure if Kilcoyne was fit?
Healy?
Yeah.
No.
Not a chance.
I thought that he was.
He might be in a year or two.
Yeah.
But not yet.
I think, I mean, the scrums didn't go well, but I think that had more to do with Reynald than the actuals. Sometimes the scrum just isn't going to go well. I mean, the referee will take a chance. Remember Leinster getting Claremont to the Aviva?
That's not Kilcoyne's strength either. His strength is in the loose.
Wayne Barnes just took against the Leinster front row. I mean, Sean was leaving a space and letting Leinster prop go through in between them. And they were saying it to him. Barnes just wasn't interested. So sometimes how a referee interprets a situation can have a telling effect on the game, and you can be as happy as you like with your props, and I think that's the situation. I think they'll file that under Reynal.
Fair enough.
Who's refereeing this on Saturday?
Good question.
Not sure.
Don't know.
If we were professional, we would have done our
Yes, we would have.
research.
Hey,
and
look,
found that out.
I looked up the time of the game, right? I wrote down the time of the game.
Fair play.
You know?
Just a couple of other things I want to cover before we go. The under-20s won against Scotland, obviously, down in Cork.
2 brilliant tries. Did you see the game?
You did, yeah.
2 brilliant tries. Obviously, was it Crowley? Is that his name? Scored a breakaway try. Got a great step, great fend, and then just hit the gas. Brilliant try.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Then,
picked up man of the match as well, didn't
he did, yeah. I wasn't so sure about that. I thought the man of the match was the scorer of the second try, Thomas Ahern.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was absolutely another athletic, really powerful, but really athletic with good hands. Lock.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like his try? They're going down the wing, like he accelerated away from the covering winger. It was brilliant. And then he had the
He's very long legs, of course, Dave.
but then he had the common sense to finish it off when he got tapped. He didn't lose the run of himself and knock it on. He finished off the try. I thought he was superb.
Yeah. And of course the ladies also won. They made heavy weather over. They saw the first half.
Second half they did, yeah. They found it tough going.
A bit like France.
Yeah.
They almost
They got. I mean, they brought on Leah Lyons, and then she got sin-binned, which didn't help. So the scrum was in trouble. Second half. Brilliant try for Bevan Parsons. Intercept try on the 5-metre line.
She's back in school today.
She's back in school today. She's doing her leaving cert.
Yeah.
She ran literally 95 metres back. It was a brilliant try. Actually, Ireland were good in that first 40 minutes, 50 minutes. Ireland were really good. Scotland came into it then, came strong. It's hard to know because the conditions didn't look the greatest in Energy, so it's hard to know which was. But it was good because the Irish women team have been a bit disheartened by their performances over the last couple of years. So it's good to get good.
The wheels kind of have fallen off a little bit, haven't
they? They did, yeah.
I mean, like they had such success between the Grand Slams, beating the All Blacks in the World Cup in 2014, and then all of a sudden, even hosting the World Cup, where it was supposed to be the pinnacle,
and then it just fell apart. And it's good, and it's a new team.
But like even last year, you know, like I brought my kid to it, and to both games, the England game and the French game, and I think the French game they broke at the time, there was the highest attended.
Yeah, it was
girls or women's Six Nations match. I think it was subsequently beaten by England.
Who won England women v France women?
I can't remember. I was watching the game and I can't remember. I was watching it on the thing while I was watching the Ireland game on the telly.
That's two fairly professional squads.
They are professional squads.
Well, England are. France are professional now as well.
Yeah.
Only just in the last year, I think.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So, like, whoever wins that has got to be favourites for the. But unfortunately, we can't remember who it was.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, that Ireland team for a long time, like you were talking about all the great things that Irish team did, going to get into a World Cup final, winning Grand Slams, beating the All Blacks, all that kind of stuff. That team. Within the space of 2 years, all kind of retired at the same time.
They all got old together.
So, in fairness to Adam Griggs, and indeed Tom Tierney, there was a lot of churn of players, you know, and that was hard to manage.
And then, like the same issue, like involved with, as you know, we're coaching kids mini rugby, and doesn't like you're picking women playing rugby for the first time at international level. You know, it's just not sustainable that you can give somebody a cap after 5 games of rugby because they don't have the skill levels. They have the athletic prowess, but they don't have the skills, and you're teaching them on the go. But now there's a whole generation now of kids
playing the game from
10, 12 coming through.
So
give them another 6-8 years, they'll all be coming through now, and with the skill levels, we've learned the skills.
They have they'll be innate,
and all they'll need to do is to hone them when they get to.
There was a situation where we were like a great example of that is Lindsay Peat. Lindsay Peat's an Irish basketball soccer international and captained the Dublin to the Jackies to All Irelands. Right, so she's an incredible athlete, and she switched to rugby. And she got her first cap after 8 games. Now, okay, she's obviously good at ball sport. Like she's a good footballer, right? So that was she had a bit of a head start there. But she had to learn how to play rugby on the job.
Or the rules.
But she had to learn it all on the job. Yeah. Like her athleticism and her innate.
They're givens, right?
her innate footballing ability kind of carried her through while she was learning. Now she was really good last on Sunday. She was really, and you can see that she's now the fully formed rugby player. But we're now in a situation where girls like say Bevan Parsons are coming through, and she's probably been playing rugby since she was 7.
Yeah.
She's a rugby player. She's not a converted footballer. She's not a converted basketball player. She's a rugby player. And Elsa Hughes is another one. I mean, we know her brothers. She's been playing rugby since she was knee high to a grasshopper. And those players coming through now will make a big difference in the future for Irish women's rugby.
Unfortunately, like Italy improving in the Six Nations, everyone else is improving
faster. Yeah.
And France and England with their professional women's rugby are going to just streak ahead. You know, it's hard to see a non-professional side keeping up with them on balance. Okay, they might beat them the odd time, but it'll be odd.
There's a lot of money out there for women's sports. A lot of money. Whether it's interested in women's rugby at the moment, I don't know. Certainly not to the extent where Ireland could take it professional.
Well, I'm not sure about going professional because like we've got 4 professional teams. But can we afford?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure.
But sorry, just like as I said, coaching the minis, the IRFU are throwing money at girls rugby.
Oh yeah, the 20 by 20 scheme.
I think we had a thing last summer called Give It a Try, and they brought down.
They have lovely leaflets.
Yeah, they did. But they brought down, the IRFU brought down to Coolmine. They gave us about 100 balls, T-shirts for the kids. They got down Leinster and Irish women internationals. They brought down the Irish women's forwards coach to give a session to the kids. Like, they could not have been more supportive. Our numbers like quadrupled from last season to this season. I was coaching them tonight, and we had 40 kids down in Coolmine, all girls.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I'm talking about is I'm talking down the line. I'm saying there is a lot of money out there. I'm talking about sponsorship money and stuff like that at the elite level for women's sports. The question is, how do we get our hands on it? And it's going to be a process. You can't just suddenly decide, okay, everything's going to go pro. You have to do in women's rugby what we did in men's rugby, which was build a pyramid. And if we build a pyramid, then we'll be able to get our hands on some of that, TV money that's in England and in France, sponsorship money. Lidl have ploughed an absolute fortune into ladies' Gaelic football, but they're getting a huge return on it. So there is money there. Just a matter of how we go about getting our grubby little paws on it.
Yeah, well, we've got a good bit of government funding in the last.
Yeah.
Well, boys, as ever, thanks a million. Thanks very much for watching. If you are following us on Facebook and Twitter, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. But tonight, thanks a million for watching. Cheers.